I was never the kind of girl who drew attention in a crowd. I lived quietly, spoke softly, and kept my heart guarded after my last breakup, left me questioning everything, even my worth. Months passed in silence until one morning, standing in front of my mirror, I barely recognized the girl staring back. My body felt weak, my spirit even weaker. That was the day I decided to join a gym, not to impress anyone, but to rebuild myself piece by piece. The smell of metal, sweat, and determination hit me the moment I stepped into the training center. I felt small among the confident, sculpted people around me, but there she was, Raina, the trainer everyone seemed to admire. She was around 35, tall and toned, with an effortless confidence that filled every corner of the room. Her dark hair was tied neatly, her movements precise and strong. There was something in her calm authority that immediately drew me in, a quiet, magnetic power. "First time?" she asked, noticing how I hesitated near the treadmill. Her voice was deep, warm, and strangely reassuring. I nodded awkwardly. "Yeah, I'm a bit lost, to be honest." A faint smile curved on her lips. "Don't worry. Everyone starts somewhere. I'll guide you." And she did. From the first stretch to the last rep, Raina was patient. Her hands were steady when correcting my posture, her tone gentle yet commanding. Every time she placed her hand lightly on my back to guide me, a wave of warmth rushed through me that I couldn't explain. It wasn't just admiration, it was something deeper, something dangerous. Over the days that followed, I found myself looking forward to the gym, not for the workouts, but for her. For the way she'd say my name, the way her eyes followed me when she thought I wasn't looking. I caught her gaze once in the mirror as she watched me lift, and for a second, neither of us looked away. Something passed between us, silent, powerful, unspoken. "Breathe," she'd whisper whenever I struggled with a heavy set. Her voice softened, almost like she was speaking to my soul instead of my body. I could feel her energy, grounded, protective, intense. And though she never said anything inappropriate, her presence always lingered close enough to make my heartbeat quicken. One evening, after a particularly exhausting session, I sat down on the gym floor, wiping sweat from my forehead. Raina walked over with 2 water bottles and handed me one. "You're pushing yourself too hard," she said, her tone half concerned, half amused. "I want to get better," I replied. Still catching my breath, she crouched down in front of me, her eyes meeting mine. "You already are." That simple line hit deeper than it should have. It wasn't just encouragement, it felt like she saw something in me no one else did. A few minutes later, as the gym began to empty, she asked, "You want to grab a coffee nearby? Helps muscles recover, or that's what I tell myself." I laughed softly. "Is that trainer advice or personal habit?" She grinned. "A little of both." I hesitated for a moment, but curiosity and something else I didn't dare name made me nod. "Sure." We walked side by side through the quiet evening streets, the cool breeze brushing past our skin. At the cafe, she ordered black coffee while I picked something sweet and mild. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, from gym stories to random jokes to pieces of our pasts. She told me she had opened her gym to help women feel strong again, but her tone carried an unspoken meaning I couldn't quite place. I told her about my breakup, how it left me feeling hollow. She listened, truly listened, her eyes soft but steady. "You don't need to fix yourself," she said quietly. "You just need to remember who you are." That sentence stayed with me long after we finished our coffee. As we walked back, her shoulder brushed against mine, and my heart stuttered. When we reached the gym entrance, I turned to say goodbye, but she was already watching me, not like a trainer assessing progress, but like a woman seeing something she wanted to understand. Her gaze lingered longer than it should have, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't look away. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about her, about the way her voice dipped lower when she said my name, the way her eyes had followed me through the mirror, the way she made the air feel heavier when she was near. Something inside me shifted, a pull I couldn't resist, a warmth I hadn't felt in years. I didn't know then that her hands were not just shaping my body, they were shaping my fate. Days turned into weeks, and the gym no longer felt like a place for training. It felt like a world that belonged only to me and Raina. Every rep, every stretch, every drop of sweat carried an unspoken story between us. The air was always warm with something neither of us could name but both could feel. Raina had a way of watching me that wasn't just professional. Her gaze carried softness and curiosity, as if she wanted to understand the pieces of me I didn't show to the world. And I couldn't help but fall deeper into that quiet attention. One afternoon, while I was practicing squats, she stood behind me, adjusting my posture with her hands resting gently on my waist. Her voice was low, almost like a whisper. "You've gotten stronger." I smiled, slightly out of breath. "I had a good teacher." She chuckled. "I didn't open this place just to build bodies, you know. I wanted women to find their strength again, to rebuild after life breaks them down." There was something in her tone, a sadness hidden behind the strength. I wanted to ask more, but the words caught in my throat. Still, that confession stayed with me. Maybe that's why she had connected with me. She saw the same brokenness in my eyes that she once had in hers. Later that week, after everyone left, I found her sitting alone in the corner of the gym, scrolling through her phone. I walked up quietly. "You're still here?" She looked up and smiled faintly. "Paperwork." And maybe I liked the silence after the crowd leaves. I sat beside her. "You don't seem like the type who enjoys silence." "Maybe I used to love noise," she replied, glancing at me, but noise never listened back. There was a pause, heavy, meaningful, and before I knew it, the words slipped out of me. "Raina, there's something I haven't told you." Her expression softened. "What is it?" I hesitated for a moment, then said quietly, "I'm a lesbian." She froze slightly, surprised, but not in judgment. Her lips curved into a small, understanding smile. "You know, I am too." For a moment, the world seemed to still. All the subtle tension, the glances, the closeness, it suddenly made sense. We weren't imagining it. We were both standing on the same unspoken edge. From that day on, everything between us changed, quietly, beautifully, dangerously. Training sessions became more playful. Her laughter came more easily. Her touches lingered a second longer. When I'd stumble or lose balance, she'd steady me, her hands strong on my hips, her breath brushing my neck. The air between us pulsed with something electric. Then came the night that changed everything. It'd been raining hard, the kind of rain that drowns out the world. Most members had left early, and by the time I finished my session, the downpour made it impossible to step outside. Raina looked out the window, then turned to me with a grin. "Looks like you're stuck with me tonight." I laughed nervously. There are worse places to be stuck. She led me upstairs to her office, where a small couch sat near the window. She poured us 2 glasses of wine from a bottle she kept hidden in her cabinet. "For recovery," she joked. We sat there, watching the rain blur the city lights. The atmosphere was soft, intimate, almost too quiet. "You know," she said after a sip, "when I first saw you walk into the gym, I thought you'd quit in a week." I smiled. "I almost did, until you smiled at me that first day." She looked at me then, really looked. The silence between us stretched, thick with emotion. "You're different, Sofia. There's something about you that makes me forget I'm supposed to keep my distance." Her words made my chest tighten. I set my glass down, my pulse racing. What if I don't want distance? Her eyes flickered with hesitation and desire all at once. She leaned in just slightly, close enough that I could feel her breath against my cheek. The sound of rain filled the space between our heartbeats, and then she kissed me. It wasn't sudden or rushed. It was slow, trembling, almost reverent. The taste of wine lingered on her lips, the warmth of her touch melting away every fear I had ever carried. Her hand moved gently to the side of my face, holding me like I was something precious. When we finally pulled apart, both of us were breathless. She rested her forehead against mine, whispering, "I shouldn't have." "But I'm glad you did," I whispered back. That night didn't end there. We talked for hours about our pasts, our heartbreaks, the women who had left scars on us. We laughed, we cried, and somewhere between truth and comfort, we found peace in each other's presence. From then on, the lines blurred completely. After gym sessions, I'd stay longer, helping her close up, sometimes cooking dinner together upstairs in her apartment. There were nights when we'd fall asleep talking, the TV playing softly in the background. Other nights, we'd simply sit by the window with a bottle of wine. Watching the rain, our hands intertwined, her world became mine, the scent of her coffee, the rhythm of her mornings, the warmth of her laugh. I thought we were healing together. Rebuilding what life had broken in both of us, I thought. I'd finally found where I belonged. We thought we'd found our forever, but forever had other plans. Those days with Raina felt like living inside a dream, soft mornings, warm laughter, and the kind of peace I had never known before. I'd wake up to the smell of her coffee drifting from the kitchen upstairs, her hair messy from sleep, wearing one of my oversized t-shirts that barely reached her thighs. She'd smile at me over her mug and say, "Rise and shine, sleepyhead," and in that moment, the world always felt safe. We'd go down to the gym together before anyone else arrived. Sometimes we didn't even bother with workouts. We'd play our favorite songs on the speakers and dance barefoot across the polished floor. She'd twirl me clumsily, laugh when I stepped on her toes, and pull me close until our foreheads touched. In those moments, it felt like love was the simplest thing in the world, pure, easy, and infinite. Our days followed a rhythm that felt almost sacred. We trained together, laughed through the exhaustion, cooked late dinners, and fell asleep side by side, the sound of rain often our lullaby. Even in silence, her presence filled me with calm. I had stopped searching for meaning because, with her, I had already found it. Still, we both knew that what we had wasn't something the world would easily understand. Raina's gym had a reputation. She was respected, admired, and for some, envied. She didn't want rumors. So we kept our relationship private, hidden between knowing glances and quiet nights. When my friends asked why I was always busy, I simply said, "Workouts and late shifts." No one suspected that the reason I came home glowing wasn't fitness. It was love. One night, while we sat on the couch with glasses of wine, I leaned against her shoulder and asked, "Do you ever wish we could be open about us?" She sighed, twirling the glass in her hand. "Maybe someday, when people learn to love without judgment." Her answer stung, but I nodded. I told myself she was right, that what mattered was us, not what anyone thought. Love, I believed, didn't need the world's approval. We spent nights planning our future like children building castles in the air. She wanted to expand the gym, open a new branch in another city, maybe even abroad. I wanted to travel, to see the ocean again. "Then we'll do both," she said, her eyes sparkling. "You'll teach yoga in the mornings, I'll train clients in the afternoons, and we'll watch sunsets together at night." I laughed. "You make it sound like a fairy tale." "Maybe it is," she said softly, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "Maybe we're the kind that actually comes true." I believed her. Every word, every promise. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, things began to change. It started with her phone. She'd keep it face down on the table when we were together. Whenever it buzzed, she'd get up quickly, step outside, and whisper into the receiver. I'd ask who it was, and she'd smile faintly. Just business. Some clients are needy even after hours. I tried not to doubt her. After all, I knew how dedicated she was to her work. But sometimes her eyes carried a shadow, a distant, distracted look like her thoughts were somewhere else entirely. One evening, while I was folding laundry, I noticed her sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone screen with an unreadable expression. When I asked what was wrong, she blinked, startled, and smiled too quickly. Nothing, just tired. And I let it go because love makes you blind, not by force, but by choice. You convince yourself that everything is fine because the truth feels too heavy to hold. We still had good days, the best even. Movie nights with popcorn, quiet dinners lit by a single candle, lazy Sundays when we stayed wrapped in each other's arms. But those little silences between us started growing longer. I could feel something slipping, but I didn't know what. Once, during a late evening workout, I caught her staring at her reflection in the mirror, her expression unreadable, her shoulders tense. When I called her name, she turned quickly and smiled. I was just thinking about next month's schedule, she said. I smiled back, pretending I believed her. That night, as we lay in bed, she fell asleep almost immediately, her back turned to me. I reached out to touch her arm, but stopped halfway. For the first time, I felt like there was a space between us that love couldn't quite fill. I told myself it was stress, exhaustion, the weight of running a business. I told myself she still loved me because she still looked at me that way sometimes, with warmth and softness. Because she still kissed me before leaving for work. Because she still whispered, "Sleep well, my love," every night. But somewhere deep down, I felt it, the quiet tremor before the storm. If only I had asked who she was texting late at night, maybe my heart wouldn't have shattered the way it did. The first sign came on a quiet Saturday morning, a message that Raina said was from a supplier, followed by a sudden need to leave early. She kissed me on the forehead and said, "Don't wait up, I might get home late." Her tone was casual, but something about it felt rehearsed. I wanted to believe her, I really did. But the silence that followed after she left gnawed at me in a way I couldn't ignore. That evening, I texted her twice, no reply. I called once, straight to voicemail. I stared at the phone for hours, my stomach twisting up by morning. I couldn't sit still anymore. I told myself I'd surprise her, maybe bring her coffee, maybe laugh about how paranoid I was being. But deep down, I knew I wasn't going to find laughter that day. When I reached her building, the air felt heavier than usual. I climbed the stairs slowly, my palms clammy, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. Just as I reached her floor, I heard voices, soft, familiar, too intimate. I froze near the turn of the hallway. My breath caught in my throat, and then I saw her. Raina stood at her door, smiling gently, that same soft, affectionate smile I had once believed was only mine. Standing in front of her was another woman, mid-30s, tall, dressed in a crisp white blouse and heels. She looked comfortable. Her hand brushed Raina's arm before she leaned in and hugged her, not the quick kind of hug strangers share, but something slow, close, and familiar. I didn't even realize when my eyes started to sting. I pressed my back against the wall, hidden just out of sight. My hands trembled so badly I had to cover my mouth to stop from making a sound. The woman laughed, a soft, knowing laugh, and Raina whispered something I couldn't hear. The woman nodded, smiled again, and walked away down the hall. Raina watched her go, her face unreadable. Before stepping back into her apartment and closing the door behind her dot, my legs felt like they couldn't hold me anymore. I turned and stumbled out of the building, my heartbeat thundering in my chest. The world blurred. Everything felt unreal. I told myself there had to be an explanation, a client, a friend, someone innocent. But no matter how I twisted it, the scene replayed in my mind. The hug, the smile, the warmth in Raina's eyes that had once belonged to me. That night, when she came home, I sat waiting for her. She walked in like nothing had happened, kissed my forehead, and asked, "Did you eat?" I stared at her, searching her face for guilt, for any sign of the truth I had seen that morning. But she looked calm, too calm. "I was busy all day," she said, stretching her arms. "Tiring meetings." I nodded slowly. "With the supplier?" She blinked once, surprised, then smiled faintly. "Yeah, how did you know?" That smile, so practiced, so familiar, cut through me like glass. She was lying, and she didn't even flinch doing it. I wanted to scream, to ask her how long she'd been deceiving me. But instead, I said nothing. I wanted to see if she'd confess. For days, I waited. I gave her every chance, silent moments when she could have told me the truth. But she never did. She kept playing the same part, the gentle, loving trainer, the caring girlfriend. Only now, her touches felt lighter, her kisses shorter. Her eyes distant, I started to feel like a stranger in her world, someone waiting for affection that had already been given away. One evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I waited until she sat down, scrolling through her phone, her thumb moving absently. My voice came out quieter than I expected. "Raina?" "Who was that woman?" Her eyes lifted instantly, sharp, alert. "What woman?" "The one who left your apartment on Saturday morning." She froze. Just for a second, but it was enough. Then she exhaled slowly, leaning back in her chair. "You followed me?" "No," I said, my voice trembling. "I came to see you." "To surprise you." Silence stretched between us like a wound. Then she looked away and said flatly, "She's someone I've known for years." "It's complicated." My throat tightened. "Complicated how?" "She and we used to be together," Raina said after a pause. "It's been on and off for a long time, but it means nothing now." The words hit me harder than I expected. Used to be, on and off. Means nothing. Every phrase was a knife wrapped in calmness. "Then why didn't you tell me?" I whispered, "Because it's over," she said, her voice rising a little. "I didn't want to hurt you for something that doesn't matter anymore." I laughed bitterly, tears burning my eyes. "It doesn't matter? You let me love you while you still had someone else in your life? How does that not matter?" She stood up, running a hand through her hair, frustration in her movements. "You're overreacting, Sofia. I told you, it's not like that anymore." But I saw it in her eyes, the flicker of guilt she tried to hide. The truth she had buried under half-dashed truth stopped my chest, ached. I wanted to believe her so badly, but the image of that woman, her hand on Raina's arm, that comfortable closeness, wouldn't fade. That night, we didn't sleep beside each other. She lay on one side of the bed, facing the wall. I lay on the other, staring at the ceiling, my heart breaking quietly under the weight of silence. Morning came, but nothing between us felt alive anymore. We spoke less, touched less, laughed never. Love had turned into something cold and heavy. I realized then that I had been living in a story that wasn't mine. I was just a chapter, temporary, replaceable. She said she loved me, but her bed still smelled of someone else. I stopped going to the gym. The place that once smelled of sweat, perfume, and laughter now felt like a graveyard of memories. Every time I walked by that building, my heart twisted. The sound of dumbbells clanging echoed like the ghost of something I'd lost. Raina's gym wasn't just a fitness center to me anymore. It was the place where my heart was born and buried all at once. The mornings became heavy. I'd wake up staring at the ceiling, wondering how love could turn into pain so quickly. The coffee she used to make, strong, sweet, with a hint of cinnamon, now tasted bitter no matter how much sugar I added. I had deleted her number, blocked her on every platform, but it didn't matter. Love doesn't need a phone to haunt you. Sometimes I'd scroll through old pictures before deleting them again, the ones where we smiled after a late night workout, or when she wrapped her arm around me, sweat glistening on her skin, whispering that I was her piece. Those moments felt like lies now, but still, I couldn't bring myself to hate them. Days passed like blurred photographs. I couldn't eat properly. My friends asked what was wrong, but I couldn't say it out loud. How could I explain that the woman who made me feel alive had also been the one to break me into silence? One night, I opened social media. I wish I hadn't. There she was, Raina, smiling under a golden sunset, standing next to that same woman I had seen leaving her apartment. Their hands were intertwined. The caption read, "Back where it all began." My stomach churned. My fingers went cold. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred with tears. She had promised me I was special, that what they had meant nothing. But those pictures told a different story, one I was never part of. I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and fell to the floor with a dull thud, much like my heart. The nights that followed were the hardest. Sleep refused to come. I'd sit by the window with a half-empty glass of wine, watching the rain fall against the glass. Each drop reminded me of her touch, her voice, the way she used to say my name. I'd whisper it back as if she could hear. Sometimes I'd laugh at myself, a broken girl talking to shadows, mourning a love that was never fully hers. I replayed every detail, the way she looked at me that first day, the promises she made, the warmth of her breath when she whispered she'd never leave. But she did. She didn't just leave my bed. She left the version of me that believed in love. I stopped wearing my gym shoes. They sat in a corner, covered in dust, just like the dreams we once built together. Even music felt like betrayal. Every song seemed to know her name. I tried deleting her photos one last time. My finger hovered over the delete button, but I froze. In those pictures, we looked happy, real. Was all of that truly fake? Or did she love me once before something in her heart changed? I'll never know. I poured myself another drink, the liquid burning down my throat like memory. I closed my eyes and remembered her voice, deep, soft, and teasing, saying, "You're my favorite mistake." I hadn't understood what she meant then. Now I did. The same hands that once held me like I was her world now held someone else like I never existed. And for the first time, I realized heartbreak doesn't come from losing someone. It comes from realizing they were never really yours to begin with. Months passed. The seasons changed quietly, as if the world itself had grown tired of watching me grieve. The pain didn't vanish. It simply learned to rest deeper inside me. Like an old wound that no longer bleeds but still aches when touched. For a long time, I avoided the gym as if stepping inside would summon her ghost. But one morning, as the sun rose through the blinds and lit up the dust floating in my apartment, I realized I couldn't keep living in fear of memories. I needed to reclaim the part of me I had lost, the woman I was before Raina. So I went back. The air smelled the same, iron, sweat, faint perfume, but everything felt different. The mirrors reflected a face that had changed. Not weaker, just quieter. I put on my gloves, picked up the dumbbells, and began. Each lift burned. Every rep felt like punishment at first, but slowly it began to feel like release. I wasn't lifting weights anymore. I was lifting everything she left behind. The guilt, the betrayal, the silence. I felt them rise and fall with every breath until, for the first time in months, my chest didn't feel like it was collapsing sometimes when I caught my reflection in the mirror. I almost saw her standing behind me, correcting my posture, smiling that secret smile. But I blinked and she'd be gone. Only I remained. I started to realize that pain isn't something you move past. You grow around it. It becomes part of your foundation, the invisible weight you learn to carry without letting it crush you. In quiet moments, I think of her, not with anger anymore, but with a strange kind of tenderness. She was the one who taught me to be strong, even if it came through heartbreak. Maybe that was her final lesson, that strength isn't about lifting the heaviest weight, but about standing up again after love breaks you. I saw her once, months later. She was walking down the street, holding hands with that same woman. They looked happy, laughing softly, unaware of me. My heart didn't break this time. It only sighed. I wished them well in silence and walked away before the past could turn into pain again. At night, I sometimes pour a small glass of wine, just enough to remember, not enough to drown. I sit by the window where we once shared our dreams, and I talk to myself instead of her. I tell the girl I used to be that she did her best, that love isn't a mistake just because it ends. Some loves come to stay. Some come to change us. Raina was the latter. I began journaling again, filling pages with memories, lessons, and quiet reflections. Writing helped me breathe again. It turned my heartbreak into something softer, almost sacred. I wrote about how she held me, how she lied, and how she taught me to find beauty even in breaking. People say time heals everything. It doesn't, but it teaches you how to live with the ache. It teaches you how to find rhythm in the silence, strength in solitude, and peace in unfinished stories. One evening, as I left the gym, I looked up at the fading sky, streaks of orange melting into blue. The world kept moving, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel left behind. Maybe I would love again someday. Maybe not. Either way, I knew now that love wasn't about forever. It was about moments, the kind that change you, scar you, and still leave you grateful that you lived them. I smiled faintly to myself, whispering a thank you, not to her, but to the version of me who survived her. Because in the end, Raina didn't just teach me how to build muscle. She taught me how to live with a broken heart.